Hey, this is Allie Edwards, and in this video I'm going to show you how I put my stories from Art of Noticing documenting into my Art of Noticing notebook there. I decided to use this notebook to collect stories from this time, this COVID-19, this coronavirus time. And I started out with documenting 5 or 6 days in a row, picking one little story per day of something that I noticed. And I had documented all of this on Instagram, so I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting of my text into this notebook. But because I knew that I had a specific intent or way that I wanted to use this, I decided to make a cover page there in the beginning. So the outside Art of Noticing will still be there, and then it will have some journaling here that's going to be on this inside cover to kind of introduce what kinds of stories I'm going to be telling in this notebook. I'm using the Art of Noticing stamp set. We sold out of those, but if you click Notify Me, we may be able to get more of those in as well at some point in the future here. And then it goes into the first day. So like I said, over the course of 5 or 6 days, maybe 6 or 7 days, I documented one story per day. I added those on Instagram, and then I am copying and pasting the text into this notebook. What I'm working with right here is some over painting from a recent art journal page that's on deli paper, which is something that I saw somebody else doing. And you can actually take those deli paper pages where I'm stamping off or rolling paint onto those, and you can put them into your projects. We'll pop back to that one again in a minute. What I decided to do is that I wanted to add a pocket into that front cover. So I'm using some new vellum that I got from scrapbook.com that has small rose gold rainbows on them, and then I wrote up a 3x4 card of journaling. And that journaling right there basically tells the story of, starting on March 12th or whatever day it was, we began practicing really strict social distancing, and that's kind of tells the story on that little card there. So with the vellum, I'm going to make a pocket, and then my journaling card is going to be able to be slipped into that pocket. I decided to go that way just to make it a little bit more interactive. I used the observing stamp from the Art of Noticing stamp and slipped it inside an Avery Index tab there, and then I'm going to create a pocket. The way that I decided to create a pocket with this vellum was to use red line tape, and I just made an outline there. There's lots of different ways that you can do this depending on what kind of paper that you're using. I decided this was going to be fine with me. I kind of wanted to stitch, but I didn't want the stitching to be on the outside cover, and I could have covered it with something else, but I just went ahead and just use the red line tape, and that seemed to work out just fine to create this pocket because that holds the vellum in place, and then I'm able to slip my journaling into the pocket. So kind of a fun way to play with that. You can definitely see the red line tape adhesive, but it's uniform, so you have a uniform kind of line around there that's holding it in place, and I thought it looked fine. So when I'm working inside of a notebook like this, I do a lot of kind of cutting, making things fit. I'm also using a 1/2-inch corner rounder because I do like the rounded corner pages of the notebook. So that's what ended up being my intro page there. And I did consider adding on some other, chipboard pieces or other things into those colorful starbursts there. In the end, I can't remember. I think, we'll see in a minute here, I think that I just ended up leaving it, but I did look through some of my chipboard pieces and my individual chipboard that I have in a stash there as well. So those are all things that you could add on to the pages that you have within your own Art of Noticing notebook. Basically for me, when this Art of Noticing notebook is pre-printed, so it has a spot for your photo or ephemera or a drawing or whatever you want to put, and it also has a spot for journaling, and then it has a dotted page on the other side. So what you're going to see me doing in this video is different things that you can cover up the other side. I think it's pretty fun because it's a great way to be able to use up supplies that you may have. Like that one says Home Sweet Home. That's from the March Stories by the Month chipboard set. And you can do a variety of different things. You could paint on paper and let that dry and put that in. You can use pattern paper. You can use photographs. You're going to see me using that as well. You can create stamped collages. Lots of different ways that you can come up with something that's going to basically cover the page that is opposite your photo and your journaling. And I am keeping that, at least for now, that formula in place in the album that I'm using. There might be a time where I cover up both pages with an image. I haven't decided on that yet. I'm kind of just letting myself play in here, which is, I think, a fun part of this kind of memory keeping, which is a little bit different than the traditional scrapbooking or Project Life sorts of things that I've done in the past. And then, as you can see here, I literally went onto my Instagram post and just rewrote what I had written on Instagram during that week. Now, you may be doing this in more real time, which is actually how I did it on a recent trip. A couple weeks ago, we did a stamp week where I was sharing some different ideas for stamping each day. During those videos, I was sharing how I was completing the pages in another notebook like this. In that case, in that notebook, while we were traveling in Las Vegas, I went ahead and I wrote each day, or whenever I wanted to, wrote the stories into the notebook, and then when I came back, I added in the photos and the rest of the stuff there that ended up being on the second page and dating the bottom. So what I'm doing now, so I just finished the first one, which was essentially that deli paper plus a chipboard, right? Plus the photo that I printed out, plus my journaling. And so now I'm moving on to the next one. I'm thinking about, okay, what do I want to do on this one? So for this next story, which is about essentially about starting school at home. So Anna's school has a pretty robust online education set up already where the teachers are involved. And so what I decided to do here was use a pattern paper as a background, and this is linked below as well. And then I wanted to play with these Tim Holtz stamps. They're foam stamps, but they sit on top of an acrylic block just like you normally would. And I went ahead and I'm using black ink there, Memento ink, and I'm saying like, this is school, this is what school looks like now, or this is school now, I think is what I put on here. So taking the opportunity to stamp on top of pattern paper, going big with a larger sized alphabet, and just playing. Like, I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to love this, or I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to turn out, but I was going for it. And one of the things that's good about this, or nice about this, working on pattern paper like this using stamps and outside of the notebook itself, is that you're working on this 4¼ by 8¼ I think is what the actual size is of the pattern paper. But if you make a mistake or you decide you don't like it, you can just start over again, right? You're not working on anything that is a permanent thing necessarily. So what I did stamp was, this is now school, and that became the base for the decoration part, I guess you could say, of this page in the notebook. And what I did was I did decide to take that, at first I was like, do I like this? Do I want to do it on the background? Do I want to do something different? That's where I am not, why I'm not doing anything on there right now, is I'm trying to think through what I want to do. But what I did do was I took it over to the sewing machine, and my sewing machine had orange thread on it right now. So I just went ahead and I stitched underneath the lines because I felt like I wanted some more texture. I wanted something else to be happening on this page, which again, you can do all of this because you're working outside of the notebook. So it's not going through onto another page, because this is going to get just adhered, right, or go right onto the page in the notebook. So next up, I played around a little bit with the idea of using one of the stamps, the stamp that says Seeing Things, and I used some red archival ink there, which is not as juicy as the inks that I offer in my shop. It's just a different setup. I think a dye ink instead of or it's a waterproof. And the reason why I got these ones too is that you can use these in art journaling sort of stuff. So I stamped Seeing Things, and then I'm going to add that just on top of the O. I could have taken off the O in now or not stamped it there, but this ended up fitting right, on top of that in that space. So this is now school is basically, again, illustrating the image, right? It's supporting the story that I'm telling on the other side about what school looks like now for Anna. So took that piece then, and I'm going to again, look for a few different chipboard pieces and see what I have in my stash of things that I could add onto some of those circles from on the pattern paper. So I had one that said like this season, and another one that says changes, and another one that says tough times, because that's, this is a big change, right, for everybody. And then also looked through. Oh, that one says adventure. So that was the fourth one that I put on there. So I've got 5 circles total. Spread around there, and then I stamped the date, and then I will be copying my text from the Instagram post and then putting that on there as well. So I'm just using, for most of these pages, I'm just using Scotch rolling adhesive and going ahead and adhering it down onto the page inside the notebook, and then I'm using that 1/2 inch corner rounder to go ahead and round the outside corners. Most of the time when I was copying and pasting the text, I was writing pretty much exactly what I wrote in the post. Sometimes, there were a couple times where I added more content or more information as I was writing, just to kind of fill the story out a little bit more, or I thought of some other thing that I wanted to add based on that as well. But I think one of the things that's great about this format is that it's a great place for some shorter stories, right? Where you're documenting, what did you notice? That's still the invitation. That's the, excuse me, prompt that we're using here, is today I noticed, and then adding in a little bit of content related to that. So I love the fact that as I'm doing this, I can do a different thing. Each time I turn to a new page, I can add something new. I can look through my pattern papers. I can look through the other things that are around my desk. For this next one, I grabbed a pattern paper that has a bunch of houses on it, trimmed that one down, remeasured again just to make sure. Trim that down. And then on top of this one, I wanted to write something about feeling all the feelings, because that's one of the things that I said in the post itself when I shared this picture of one of my cats kind of hiding in the closet. I went ahead and I used a brush pen, and this is linked down below as well. And then I literally just wrote feeling all the feelings over and over again on top of the house, right? So you've got kind of the house, pattern paper for being in the house, and then this feeling all the feelings and this messy script on top of it. So this is creating the background for this spread. Again, I love the idea that it can look totally different from day to day or from story to story in here, that it doesn't have to have a consistent look. What's consistent is that you're telling stories, right? And that you're talking about what's happening at this point in time in your life. And I'm pretty sure that I end up adding on a chipboard piece on top of that. We'll see in a minute. But again, just going back into my text there from Instagram and rewriting that in. And obviously, of course, like I said, you don't have to be using Instagram for this project at all. That just happened to be that this was during a time when I was actually ill. And so being able to just to document those stories on Instagram and have them be a holding place for when I was feeling better again, to be able to then put that into something that is more concrete like this project. So getting the journaling put in there, and then moving on to the next one. And I did this, probably over a couple of hour time period yesterday morning. So it doesn't take a lot of time, especially in this size, to be able to just get a lot of pages done in here. And if you wanted to do this each day, like, it's a great little activity each day where you're writing something down or from the day before. For the embellishment on that one, I decided to add on a rubber piece that was from a past, maybe a travel kit or an add-on for the adventure story kit. I can't remember, but there were these big rubber pieces, and it says just a part of the journey, I think is what it says down below. Moving on to the next day, I had a Zoom coffee or FaceTime coffee get together with friends, and one of my friends took a picture of that and sent it to all of us. So it's kind of a fun thing to be able to add in there, very representative of this time that we're in right now. going ahead and adding that in there. And I literally just printed that out the same size as I would have cut it for the pattern paper. And again, went ahead and, went ahead and rounded the corners as well. And then added on what I was thankful for. So, even when the prompt is today I noticed, you have leeway in terms of how you respond to that too, right? So today I noticed, what I really noticed on this particular day was how thankful I was for a variety of things, which included FaceTiming with friends, and that I had sent some flowers to myself a while ago, and that Simon's fever seemed to be under control. And, those were the sorts of things that I was adding down on this particular day. But I love this invitation to look around, to see what you notice. And I think it was interesting for me because originally when I was thinking about how I wanted to create this project, I was thinking that I wanted it to be just looking for beauty, and I did some of that, but it also really just it's documentation of what is happening in our lives right now and how I feel about those things. So next up on this one, I wanted to add, this is a shaker. It's a heart that's a little shaker, pre-made, already made. It's from Amy Tan from her new collection. Another something that I ordered recently from scrapbook.com, and loved just being able to add that on there. But anyway, like I was saying, originally I was thinking, okay, I would just be, how can I notice beauty? And I think that a lot of people did take it that way. And I saw a lot of really lovely things that people were writing about. But it's also such an unprecedented time right now to be able to invite ourselves to tell some of those stories about what's different in our life right now, or what's the same, or what we're thankful for, or just telling a story. What is your story from today? How are you feeling? How are you doing? This is an opportunity to tell some of those stories. And so for that next one, then moving on to the next one I had, this is when Simon started feeling better. So I've got a photo of Simon that I did full page paired with the smaller photo of Anna. Those smaller photos, I'm pretty sure that I printed them out 3.5 by 3.5 as a square, and then I cut them down to 3.25 by 3.5, but you can do it whatever way you want. I like to be able to see the lines there, but you can also cover up the lines as well. So this one, journaling here, was talking about Anna doing school, Simon feeling better, also having a Zoom call with the other parents in our family unit here to talk about how we are going to, how are we going to deal with kids switching during this time period. And so that was also referenced in my journaling there. And then I took some of the word phrase stickers that are from the March Stories by the Month kit, which is one of our subscriptions, added a couple of those on there, and then also pulled out some other word phrase stickers from past kits, adding them on as well. And again, what I love here is that you can have some pages that are really photocentric, right? That you've got photos on both sides, or you can have other ones that have a more playful thing, or paint, or stamping, or just a pattern paper with some embellishments on them, or on there as well. So lots of different ways that you can approach that. I have one more page that my video recorder or my camera stopped recording, but basically it's this one with Ernie. And for this one, what I did is I used the 0 or the O stamp from that same Tim Holtz stamp set and 3 different colors of ink, and created a background pattern. Just chose to play around with that instead. You'll see the finished thing here in just a second. It kind of looks like that paper that I just showed, but I used different colors, colors that I wanted to use. And then on top of that, I found a heart that is from one of our past kits, and I used a couple of the stamps from that Art of Noticing stamp set on top of there as well. So here you can see where it's going to cut off, and then you'll see what the end result looked like as well. So lots of opportunities for stamping here, lots of opportunities for playing around with the supplies that you already have, and there you can see that end result. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments below.